Hello, welcome everyone. Nice to meet you again in another meeting with our meeting's name. As some of my friends know that we are as globally mentor and speakers in their fields, very specialist people and experienced people in their fields as Speaker International. Now this event. Hello, welcome everyone. Nice to meet you again. Also, let me one correct something in. I need to correct. As I mentioned, now we are in live in speakerinternational.com and başlangıç.tv. As thank you to join us today, and we want to today, as you know, mostly we are from technology area, and today especially digital and software managers, directors, and leaders, as you are now watchers, I guess. So today, especially, we want to focus on some maybe misunderstanding points or some points that we are suffering in our organization, because, as you know, product management is very critical decision, strategic decision to maybe scale up even or customer feedback or team management, or also product manager. Who is product manager? For example, everyone can say according to their organization, product manager is different kind of role for every company. Sometimes some people says hidden CEO for his field of or her field about product manager. So we want to analyze this kind of issues that today, as we are together with Burak Neslitürk, who is the founder of Qualified One, and he's before, maybe you know, from Turkish market, he was the responsible for Europe market, one of the biggest software Turkish company. He was marketing and sales leader of this company, and then now founder of the Qualified One, and he is especially on this kind of subjects and marketing and other strategic subjects as well. Before I will give to this explanation opportunity to him about himself. Also, Greg Brickrill, he is also partner of Qualified One together. Now we are together with him, and thanks to him, he will present his presentation today, and it is very important for us. He was also several years, maybe more than 5 years experience in SAP Germany. Even now he is in Germany, even he is non-German citizen, but I think he liked Europe and Germany, and stay in Germany after his career exit. I mean, he exit already from SAP in Germany. And then İlhan Bey also together with us. He is, as maybe you know, he is the communication platform president of Turkey, and as well as co-founder, chairman of Teleneti. Teleneti, as you know, is one of the leading Turkish software company operating in many countries, as well as you know. So let me give the chance to do a brief introduction about Burak and İlhan Bey comment, and then Greg will continue with his presentation directly. We need to listen, Greg. Burak, if possible, we want to see you and hear you about you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mustafa Bey. Well, we are talking in English, but let me just talk traditional as a Bey in this session. First of all, sorry for my quite excited, and thanks a lot for your invitation. And I am very happy to be with you and İlhan Bey and Greg, and making this session for the community, technology community, our technology community. Maybe I don't waste your time so much, so I will say a couple of words for Qualified One and maybe product management. Then we can carry on with İlhan Bey and Greg. They are so competent about this topic. So, as a qualified one, our technology community and technology companies have challenges. This challenge, I mean, about business challenge mostly, or we can say non-technical matters about that. This can be about marketing, product marketing. This can be about creating a product, generating a product. This can be about international operations, whatever. In Qualified One, we try to help tech companies about these topics. Now we have 4 consultants. Greg is one of them, and he is very good at his topic, of course. We try to help tech companies about product management, digital marketing, strategic management, and their international operations. We try to help them grow in their business and have success. And today we will talk about, as you mentioned, product management. Product management is a very important issue. You are talking about a lot recently, and İlhan Bey and you, thanks a lot about the awareness, first of all, in this topic. Some companies try to create a product. Some companies have product, but they have challenge to promote the product. Some companies need to improve the product management processes. So Greg and me in Qualified One try to help this challenge, solve these problems together. So I think Greg and İlhan Bey can carry on about the details and enjoy the session for all.
Most welcome, Burak. İlhan Bey, if you please also mention about this session, and then we want to directly Greg for his session, his presentation.
Hi, thanks for arranging this webinar. I think many people who know me are tired of hearing about product management from me. So I'm happy that somebody else will be talking about it as an expert. Product management is one of our major, I don't want to say something negative, I will say biggest potential, because we are not doing it so far, but we have the technology to be successful, but not using it for our products. So we are having a very, very low productivity. Most of our companies are developing high-tech products, high-tech solutions, or working on high-tech projects, but never make it very rarely make it to a product where it solves many customers' problems and can be sold to many customers. But teaching product management is a different capability altogether. And I believe that for years I have been complaining that there are no product managers in Turkey, but I think it's more important to have product mentality in a company before you start educating people for product management. If you don't have the culture in the company, product manager cannot do much. So it's a two-step approach. If, in a country like ours, where the concept of product is very, very low and new, I think we should start with awareness with the companies who should learn and start applying product culture in their company. companies, and then they can start using product managers to take the results. So Greg, I've been talking with Greg and Burak to have an experienced product management educator available to our sector. So it's great to have found Greg, and I would be listening hopefully with the rest of our people from the sector. So Greg, please enlighten us.
Yeah, I'll try. Thanks for inviting me, guys. I will attempt to share my screen. And let's
maybe you can talk about yourself a little bit too, probably part of the...
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys are seeing the title slide, right?
Yes, yes.
Great. So today I'm going to talk about moving from project to product, which Elon was just referring to. And I will also talk about product management's role there. But as he said, product management has nothing to do if there's not an organization that has a product-led business model, if they're not looking, to develop products. So I have been a product manager now for over 20 years. I started my career as a developer at a telecommunications company, became a consultant for IBM, and then had a chance to become a product manager in IBM's Lotus brand. Then spent a few years in Redmond at Microsoft, working on business process management primarily, and then got recruited by SAP, which as an American brought me to Germany, and I never left. Now I'm married to a German. I have German kids. I'm stuck. I'll be here for a while. Most of my experience is in B2B. I've been involved in Scrum implementations, Lean, Scrum at Scale, SAFe, and do a fair amount of speaking at universities and groups and stuff like that. So that's me. And now I'm partnering with Burak to, hopefully help the product management and overall product community in Turkey. I'm really excited about that. So today we'll talk about the differences between project and product. It's fundamental and really important. We'll talk about the challenges there. I'll define or give you an idea, an example of what a product is, because my experience is we all use that term. Doesn't mean we all have the exact same idea. And then we'll talk some about product management itself. And I'd like to start with this quote from Gartner. And over, half the organizations they polled, they surveyed, are thinking about moving from a project to a product orientation. And that is a staggering number. And I can tell, I see it reflected in my clients and what's going on in Germany. I would say Germany, as we get further east, is probably behind North America in this respect. But now you're seeing the Eastern European countries, they've been doing it for, 5-10 years, moving from just being offshoring places to get development done to actually developing products. And I know the same kinds of things are happening in Turkey and Africa and other places. Super exciting. Question is why? Why is everybody rushing to develop products? There are a bunch of reasons. The ones I think are most compelling are profitability and valuation. If you're a startup, a lot of companies are also finding that it's just an expectation. Your customer doesn't want some one-off thing that you built. They want the perceived security anyway of working with something that other companies are using. These are the reasons that I see most often. Let's double click on profitability. So theoretically, a product company is more profitable than a services company. How much more? Well, it's kind of complicated. It's very easy to compare apples to oranges. A lot of the data is hard to get at because the really big services companies, many of them are private. But let me share a little bit of data. Let's think about two really marquee brands, Accenture, who really almost only does services, and Microsoft, which is a prototypical product company. So let's think about some very standard financial KPIs like gross margin, basically profit. So Accenture is public. We can see their numbers. Their profit margin, their gross margin is around 31.5%, which is amazing. 500,000 people, global company providing services. that is not bad. Think to yourself for a minute what Microsoft's must be. Is it 10 points higher? Is it 5 points higher? 3-year running average, Microsoft's gross margin is about 65%. That's mind-blowing. And it's on much more revenue. We'll see that in a moment. But the KPI that I thought was most interesting around, this profitability was revenue per employee. So if I look at Accenture in 2020, they generate $162,000 per employee. I think that's a really cool metric. And an impressive one. That's good money. Microsoft has much bigger revenue, has a huge, workforce as well. So think to yourself, how much bigger, or is it bigger? Is their revenue per employee bigger? How about almost, an order of magnitude? How about almost 10 times as big? So Microsoft, as big as it is, because it is a product company, because they have learned how to basically print money with things like Windows and Office, and now, are leading the charge into the cloud, 1.2 million per employee, really illustrative. That should tell you something. And by the way, Accenture is a huge company, 44 billion last year. Microsoft is 143 billion. And I would submit to you that you cannot get the scale that we see here. You cannot get the revenue that Microsoft demonstrates if you are not a product company, right? Elon said it at the beginning, if you can't build it once and sell it a bunch of times, there's just no way you can achieve this scale. What about valuation? What about if we're looking at how much a company is worth? If you look at IT services companies, let's say, you want to buy an IT services startup, you would basically look at their profit, their earnings before interest, tax, data, and amortization. And the going multiple there is 2.5 to 3.5 times. So a company that does IT services is probably worth around, 3 times their profit, annual profit. If you look at software companies, it's significantly higher. It's 5 to 7 times. And that kind of valuation is what gets people's attention. So just to bring it home, let's say you're looking at a company that has done 5 million average income for the last 3 years. Based on this, if they're an IT services company at the low end, they would be valued at 3.75 million. Whereas if they're a software company towards the higher end of that, that's 10.5 million. That is a huge spread. And it reflects this ability to generate revenue over time exponentially. And I can't think of a company that does that any better than Microsoft. And when I was there, it was amazing. So when I was there, somebody figured out and they said it was literally more expensive to print money than to ship Office. So it's not printing money. It's better than printing money. We're using PowerPoint right now. When I was there, I never verified it. But the rumor was that there were 9 to 11 developers working on PowerPoint. It's mind-blowing if you think about the revenue. And it's, hugely valuable, right? We all use it. It's ubiquitous. But let's back up just a second. Everybody throws this term product around. As part of my consulting practice, I do assessments. I help organizations determine how mature they are from a product perspective. One of the questions I ask everybody is, what is a product? And I get a lot of different answers. And a lot of them aren't that good. So I'm going to describe what a product is by comparing it to something that gets delivered as part of a project, because I think that'll really drive this point home. So on the left, we have a custom-built CRM. Believe it or not, that's still done a lot. People build their own CRM. And CRM does what you would expect it to. You manage your leads and contacts, you have documents, manage the funnel. On the right, we have something off the shelf, maybe Salesforce, Zoho, Nutshell, one of the preeminent CRMs. They do the same thing. If we look at the one on the left, it happens to be integrated with a company's accounting system, and maybe they're in a niche market, so that's a big deal. The first, most important difference between these is who developed these things. So on the left, an IT services company came in, looked at the requirements, gave them an estimate, did a project. It may have lasted 6 months, 8 months, a year, whatever it was. and they developed this software for the customer. On the right, it's a software product company that builds this thing once and sells it to as many people as they possibly can. So what I want to do now is look at the differences between these based on this vendor perspective, an IT services company versus a product company. And one of the first really big differences is the audience that they serve. So on the left, we're dealing with a customer. That's already super complicated. There can be a lot of stakeholders there, but it's one entity who has the requirements. And they give you explicit requirements. Over time, they will become accountable for this thing that we build, most likely. I mean, they can pay us to maintain it and stuff, but they will have an active hand in evolving it, managing it. And as a company, you really just have this one organization you have to please. Let's contrast that with serving a market. So a market are all the people who could buy our product. Customers are just a segment of the market. They're the ones who have already bought it, but there's usually a much bigger group of people who might be interested in it and have the money to buy it. And it's a very different world. I have to understand the market and infer what the requirements are. I have to figure it out. I don't have just one person I can go to because I have to serve a bunch of companies. I will retain accountability for evolving this thing, for fixing bugs, for taking it off the market. And that is a lot of work. And it's, very difficult to do for a product, but it's even worse if I have 6 different clients that have 6 different versions of the same thing. That's part of the value proposition of building the product. And you've got a whole market to please. All kinds of organizations. Take any company. Think about Microsoft, Oracle. Think about the breadth of industries they serve and how difficult that is because each of these industries has different priorities, different requirements. So these types of companies serve very different audiences. And I can tell you from experience, trying to understand what a market needs is just much harder. That's why products are more valuable. Pricing is also very different. If I'm a project-oriented services company, I figure out what my expenses are going to be, time, materials, and I mark those up 20%, 30%, whatever the market will bear. I add a little padding in there so that, I don't lose money if there's something unforeseen, and there always is. And these companies are very project oriented. They have a pool of developers. They pull a team together. They deliver a project and then they move on. And that team doesn't stay together. They can go to completely different projects. For the product that's serving a market, I use value-based pricing. I don't really care so much how much it costs me to develop it because I'm building it because I'm assuming I can spread that cost over a bunch of customers, and the more, the better. The tough part there is understanding how much value a company gets out of software. So think to yourself, how much value do you get out of PowerPoint? Can you put a price tag on that? It's not easy. You can look at your bill from Microsoft and that gives you some idea. But doing value-based pricing, much more difficult. And of course, it's a product company. They're product oriented. So if we think about Office generating 20 billion of revenue, and let's just say, it costs them $1 billion to develop it. It doesn't, nowhere close to that. Does it make sense for them to just think, look at the 200 developers they have on it, however much that costs, and, their hosting costs, and just mark that up 20%? No way. If you look at Office numbers, like Office Commercial in the last 3 years has grown by, 15 million users. Next year, it'll be another 5 or 10. So as that user base grows up, I do not believe their development cost scales at the same rate. So there you get this multiplier from having a product. Your team grows a little bit, your customer base grows a lot, and you end up, even doing better than even printing money. That's, really what the promise of product comes down to. And a third big difference is the team. I referred to this a little bit earlier, but on a project, I need project managers. I need somebody to manage that account. And then I have a bunch of developers, but I just have a big pool of developers and I apply them where I need them. They may be working on 2 or 3 projects at the same time. When those projects are done, I will find the next project for them to work on. In a product company, they're really well-defined roles. This problem has basically been solved, the basic structure. and you need new roles like product manager, product marketing, you have UX, you have engineering, but they're stable teams. They all stay together for years and years working on that product or working on a feature in that product. So these are, three kind of fundamental differences between how services companies deliver projects and product companies deliver products. And I can just tell you, it's totally different mindsets. These people even sometimes have difficulty talking to each other. And I've been hired by a services company that wanted to develop products, and that was our big problem. For the first few months, we just spoke past each other. We didn't speak the same language. So if, products are so compelling, if they're more profitable, get you a better valuation, if the market expects it and rewards it, why isn't everybody doing it? Well, it turns out that moving from a service orientation to a product orientation is really a massive challenge. It's really difficult, and it can be worthwhile. We looked at the numbers, but you have to prepare yourself for, a multi-year journey that will change, your business fundamentally. So what are the top three challenges that I see when a services company wants to become a product company? There are a bunch of them. I picked out three that I thought were pretty illustrative. One is, this is the killer, deferred revenue. When I negotiate a project, I usually get some money up front, maybe some money halfway through, some money at the end. And that's not how it works when you develop a product. There is no revenue till you ship that thing. And then there still might not be revenue, but you are going to be going deeper and deeper in the red as you develop this thing till you get it out the door. There are some ways to mitigate that, but that's really the truth. And if you've been used to, this kind of recurring periodic revenue, it's very hard to change your mindset and invest for maybe 6 to 18 months to build something, not even knowing if it's going to be successful. And the fact is, most companies that go down this journey, there aren't numbers because they don't report them. It's hard to find a list of companies that have gone down this journey, but most will quit and will go back and accept the lower margins, accept the lack of scale, because at least they understand it.
Maybe, sorry, Greg, maybe a small break can be fine for you. If I'm not wrong, it's nearly 90% of new tech companies are failing in 3 years. So this really hard business to do, but these are major business problems like targeting the customer, right customer, or having a right team, having a right marketing methodology or plan, something like that. But it's a really huge problem and a big challenge.
Yeah, it's not just taking the same people in your services company and saying, now we're going to produce products. You have to change your mindset, which is the second point around culture. Your culture will have to change. Power will shift. People who are powerful because they managed the projects and they were driving revenue will have a different role. Leadership will have to change. The entire organization. This isn't about changing engineering. It's about changing the whole organization, leadership included, accounting, finance, the way revenue is recognized, the way you do budgeting will change. And this new set of KPIs will really force people to change, not just talk about changing, they will have to change. And we know how people feel about change, right? Some people love it. The ones who benefit love it. The ones who don't resist it. So the second biggest challenge is changing the culture within the company. And a related challenge is you're going to have to adapt your organization. You're not going to have the same roles doing the same thing they've done in the past. If you don't have a product background, you're going to have these brand new roles like product management, which we'll talk about. You will need people that know how to market a product, not a services organization. You may not have a kind of stable support organization. When you ship a product, that will become a necessity. You know, people can't call the guy who developed, the code on a project in the middle of the night. It won't work. You have to have this kind of third party that manages it. And there are a bunch of other challenges. You got to upskill team and teach them. I mentioned budgeting. The expectation of quality will go up because now this thing lives in 1,000 different places. And if something goes wrong, you can put 1,000 people temporarily out of business or 1,000 businesses out of operation immediately. Tons of challenges. But the good news is there are success stories, big success stories. One of the biggest is Basecamp. It's a collaboration project management tool that came out of a services organization that needed it to manage their work. Omni AI was split off from Deloitte, and they have a product. Deloitte is, of course, one of the big service providers. These are not household names. I spent the last couple of days trying to refresh my list of companies that have taken this, done this transition successfully. And luckily, I have a good network. Just Googling, it's not easy to find these. People don't talk about it, and a lot of them fail. But as much pain as there is around it, it can be a highly profitable journey. It can give you a business model that can scale way beyond delivering projects. There are some Turkish success stories. Companies that started out providing services that found an opportunity to, develop and ship products. Telendi, that should sound familiar to folks who know Yılan. So there is success in Turkey. For Turkey to become kind of a product powerhouse, to take that next step and be known for, delivering great tech products, there's some change that's going to have to happen. There's some development that's going to have to happen, but the promise is there. The potential is there. This could be a whole webinar or, a several month consulting engagement on how do you reduce your risk? What are the steps you take to start delivering products? How do you reduce your risk? There are a bunch of things you can do. It helps to isolate the product organization from the services organization. You're going to need to adopt an agile approach. There's a lot of literature. It's a philosophy or a way of thinking. There's a lot of unknowns in product, and you have to adapt. You can reduce your risk by getting help, finding people who have gone through that journey and hiring them or contracting them to help you. It's not something I would just try to do by myself on the fly if I've never done it before. And one of the key things you can do if you want to successfully make this journey to product is develop and hire great product managers. They are really at the center of a diverse team who produces products. So let's talk a little bit about product management. What is it? And the way I describe it depends on whom I'm speaking to. If I'm speaking to leadership, like I think a lot of people on this call, I will say, your company has a strategy, right? They will say yes. Your company has products, or you want to have products, right? Yes. So I ask, who is going to execute strategy at the product level? Who is going to take your overall strategy and make sure that there's a product there to support it? That's one way to think about a product manager. Another common way to think about them is that their job is to maximize the business value of the product over its life cycle. It's going to be launched, it's going to mature, it will start to decline. Somebody has to get it back into growth again or make a decision to take it off the market. And all the while, you need some person, somebody who's laser focused on getting as much value out of that thing as possible. Product managers advocate for a functional, not a technical perspective. That's what engineering does. Product managers have to understand the problems and the product like the market does, and then describe what needs to be built to engineering. They are the hub of this team, so they spend a lot of time orchestrating the activities of the others. And a simple way to think about it is in mature organizations, you will find if I look at, compensation, accountability, there's a group of people who get stuff on the shelf, and there's another group of people who get it off the shelf. And product managers have end-to-end accountability, but are really mostly involved in getting the right product on the shelf at the right time. So a bunch of different ways to characterize it. It's a very broad discipline. It takes a long time to learn and get good at. And even in these times, the job market is heating up. It is hard to find product managers. So you may have to develop some of your own people. But if we go back to the points around how project is different than a product, we can say that product managers understand markets, not just customers. They have some insight into what the whole market wants, what its key problems are, and what they will pay to, which problems they will pay to solve. They define this value. We talked about value-based pricing. Product managers own the value proposition. They have to build a product that is sufficiently valuable to the market that it meets our business objectives. And product managers at the product level should be responsible for defining those objectives. And when we talk about the team that builds it, product managers are really at the hub. They are doing this orchestration. You've got marketing, engineering, sales, support, potentially ops, a bunch of other groups. And it's the product manager that defines the strategy and influences all these other teams to help develop a successful product. And it's really hard because product managers rarely have anybody reporting to them, certainly not other disciplines. So it's leadership by influence, not authority. And I can tell you it's a tough job, super rewarding. You know, it's like having your own entrepreneur within the company who's driving your product and making it successful. But that is how I would think about product management at a high level. They are critical to a product-led business model. And no transition from project orientation to product orientation can overlook developing a really strong product management practice. And by the way, it's, you know, in my 20 years, product management has evolved quite a bit. You'll hear people say it's done differently everywhere. Well, every job is. Marketing is a little bit different at Google than it is at Microsoft. So product management is mature. It is fairly stable. If you look at job descriptions from these companies, they will look a lot alike. And if you want to do something different, if you want to try to build products without product management or without these roles, you just have to convince yourself that you're better than these guys at building products. If you can't do that, there is a blueprint for building the organization. There's guidance on making this transition. It's not easy. It's super rewarding. And yeah, you know, over the coming months, we will look to have more events. If there's interest, we would love to do workshops. We can do training. We can help companies that want to make this transition avoid some of the obvious mistakes and increase their chances of success. And yeah, that is the presentation for today. I hope it was valuable.
Thank you, Greg. I think you are at the end of your presentation, it seems.
Yes.
Most welcome. Thank you for your great explanation about this product management and product manager as well. So there is one question directly I want to pick from the comment from our audience, thanks to them as well. The subject is, how would you transform to product company within your budget? And let's also explain or make some add to the question. If I am IT company, especially software company, and already 5-year software company, and I am somehow in my financial system don't allow me to make something, maybe product investment, or what is the product management investment, how I should strategically think, or how I can combine also, if I am the leader of this company, let's think how I should be innovative or niche. And if I see or product manager or a kind of product manager of my team in my company see some niche areas or customer demands or future demands, how I should invest at least a sense of product management of team in my company, at least to see if we can invest more or less, because as you know, at the end, financial management of this issue, as you mentioned, scale up to where as really there is innovative product I am doing, or market will demand booming as a booming from me, or how I decide? Yeah, as even my question is very complicated, as you see in many aspects of this issue. How I see clearly where is the break points, or where is the decision points? How I start slowly or suddenly a product manager management mindsets of culture of strategy in my company.
Yeah, so I think some radical change, trying to change the entire organization. Maybe if you're really small, there is only one organization, but I think that's difficult for a lot of reasons. And you already mentioned the first one. This is an investment. You have to first figure out if a product business makes sense, get the right team together, build the product, and all of that is going to be investment. You are not going to see revenue until that thing is ready to get to the market. So I would always start small, and I would look at the opportunities that I have. You mentioned noticing a niche where there, a common set of requirements. There is a process called product discovery, which is this idea of evaluating a market opportunity, determining if it's the kind of opportunity we're interested in, defining what the product would be. And then I make a decision and I go into development. So you would probably follow a product discovery process with a small team. At first, it might be part-time, but they will need time cleared off their calendars. You don't get this for free. You can't expect them to work 100% on projects and then another 100% on product. It won't work. So you have to accept the fact that this is going to be an investment, go through product discovery and get to the point that you think, you really have a business case to build a product. And then, I think one of the things that I've seen most successful is find a way to isolate this team a little bit. So if you want this team to spend half their time delivering customer projects and half their time developing the product, it's tempting, but it doesn't work. They need to be focused. So I would see, given my budget, what is the biggest thing I could build with a small team? I would put that team together, I would fund it, and I would try it. And if it fails, if we as an organization just aren't capable of doing it or whatever, I haven't lost that much. But I don't think there's any chance of just saying from one day to the next, we're going to become a product company. And this is going with this kind of agile mindset that I talked about. We do experiments. We start small. We see if there's a market. We find some early customers. And then once we start seeing some revenue or the potential for revenue, we can make smarter decisions. But the accounting, the KPIs, the way of thinking about these things is different. So I would have a product organization and a project organization. I would have, different leadership. I would put up some firewalls so product people aren't always getting called to save projects. So you have to be serious about it, and you have to have this tolerance of the kind of investment. I hope that helps. Does that answer the question?
Most welcome. Most welcome. Any comment or question from İlhan Bey or Burak Bey?
I think I have two observations and questions. First one is
maybe
the comparison of Accenture's and Microsoft's per employee revenue is huge. That's one of the metrics that we are trying to show the companies in Turkey, and the measure for the company for the country is another important metric. As a sector in Turkey, how much are we generating per employee? So are we leaving huge money on the table by just working as services companies? So your 10 times in this case, Microsoft and Accenture is even more staggering when you talk about their valuation. You said their valuation is about 2 to 3 times difference. So that means per employee, you have 30 times better valuation per employee. It's a huge difference, advantage. The other thing is when I was looking at your three-step picture of service versus product, one of the things that's important in this country is you have to look at it from, we are trying to look at it from the vendor side. Should we do this or that? Those pictures are very valuable to present to the buyers. I mean, look at each and every picture. I was thinking of myself as a large organization trying to make a decision. Should I hire a service company and make it have them develop a special project for me, solution for me, or should I buy? Now, the largest difference I see is now that we are talking about like Microsoft's products. I mean, you have a company develop a product for you. It's a dead wood. It stays there unless you reinvest in it for the next release, right? If you buy, let's say, Excel, there are tons of features Microsoft already developed for other customers. So next time around, you want to have averaging function and this and that. It's already there. Just go to help. So if a product company developed it for you, they sell it to hundreds of others, and the product lives next time around without really making any investment. You have most of the features that you like. And that applies also to internal R&D groups of the companies. It's a big thing in Turkey. I mean, you need a CRM. The big companies have three alternatives. Buy a product, hire a company to develop a product, or hire 10 guys and do it inside. And nobody has the maturity in Turkey yet. That's a stupid approach. I mean, you are paying 10 guys to develop it, and you are not going to have that 10 guys stay in your company to develop the next phase and next phase and next phase. That's the most stupid one. The middle one that you're talking about is maybe next time around, because you lock that company to a services model. That means they are not making 1.2 million, but they are making 120,000. And in Turkey, it's 20,000. Those service companies make 20,000. So you lock those guys to 20,000 per employee. So most likely next time around, 3 years later, you need an upgrade to the product. You turn around, most likely those guys are in the worst case, get out of the business. In the best case, to survive, they took over so many other projects, they can't do it for you, or those guys are not there for you. So the story needs to be told to the buyers as much as sellers also.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
And the third look is for the country. I mean, do you want your engineers, after giving all the support and everything, do you want your engineers to generate $20,000 per employee or $1.2 million per employee for the gross national product?
Yeah, absolutely.
But thanks for the great presentation. Lots of points, good points.
Yeah, thanks.
And I want to share a couple of things on my side with your permission. I check the comments, also the audience. So there are good questions. Especially, I want to promote one of he's talking about the Google and Microsoft product graveyard. I think this is an important point because maybe Greg, you can say most of the thing about that, but yes, product management or creating a product is quite risky. You are getting a risk and you are investing about that. now one thing is, I think we are talking about the reduced risk of product, creating a product, because this is my experience. Mostly the technical companies, the software companies, especially service companies, is looking from the technical point of view. But maybe your company should be a customer-centric. Your company must sense the market. Your company should try the products for a couple of customers. It's demanding or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the major things is we are talking about the reduce the risks of creating a product or running a product with especially Greg's experience. And I want to give the turn to Greg. What about the graveyards? And how can we increase the success ratio? Mostly you talk about it, but maybe we can repeat.
Yeah, I mean, the way you increase the success ratio is by understanding markets and being agile, being able to change quickly, adapt, learn. It's about having a learning culture. That helps. But we're talking about something that is just inherently risky. You cannot completely de-risk product development, no matter how well you do it. You know, there are 1,000 things that can go wrong. And most of them will at some point as you're developing this stuff. It's really hard. But, you know, Microsoft, I think, has a pretty decent win rate. What I always respected about them is, believe me, if your product is not performing as expected at Microsoft, within a year or two, it will be gone. There will be somebody else there. And I don't know if you've experienced this. Usually if I love a Microsoft product, they cancel it pretty soon after I discover it, unfortunately. But they don't apologize. They say, look, this isn't going to be on the market anymore. And I guarantee you the reason behind that is that it's not performing financially the way they expect it to. Microsoft is not interested in 20% margin, you know? So these graveyards are big. I think Google has a tendency. Yeah, I think you see a lot of products that go out. They don't necessarily evolve. I think Microsoft is brilliant at building products and billion-dollar businesses and getting rid of everything else that doesn't work. They've made some really high-profile mistakes. They're turning it around. But you will fail. If you do product long enough, you will have failures. It's just inherent. It is too hard a problem to understand a market and deliver something that can always meet your expectations. So I don't know. I'm not familiar with this term. Like, obviously I know what a graveyard is, but I assume what they're referring to is like all these products that stack up that, you know, get withdrawn from the market or just aren't used. And yeah, you know, everything about moving to a product-led business model, about managing a problem, is about de-risking this inherent risk. This, you know, there is some risk you just can't get rid of.
I believe and hope all the attendees in this session, we should get this risk. We should generate a product and we should run it on the market. Especially, I think it should be in international markets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which brings even more risk, right? But yeah. If you look at how products get developed, the entire kind of approach to building products is about mitigating risk. Everything you read about Agile and all these other approaches are really about addressing this risk that we've got it wrong, that we don't understand, that things are going to change. So it's just something you have to live with. And there are a lot of things you can do to help ensure your success. And it's another reason to not try to do it on your own. It takes a while to learn those lessons. And to have this, you know, what today they call product sense. You know, part of being a product manager, no tool is going to make a decision for you. It's kind of understanding and building this intuition about what is going to work. Some people are great at it, you know, like Steve Jobs, just incredible at it. And there are companies that aren't in business anymore because they just weren't that good at figuring out, you know, what the market needed.
İlhan,
One question going from services to products from the viewers is it's easy to price a project. I mean, you put some markup and fine. How do you, what is the criteria or systematic approach for once you develop a product? How do you price it? That's probably hours of discussion, but do you have any pointers?
Yeah, so we talked about value-based pricing, and it's about understanding not what it costs to build, but the value that customers get out of it. And it is all going to come down to like some kind of pitch. So first of all, let me say, over time, almost all products will end up being market priced, meaning there's competition, and you will price relative to your competitors. If you have better brand equity, you'll be able to charge a premium. If you don't, you might be competing on price. So the tendency is, over time, you don't just get to decide the price, the market will decide the price, and you will be constrained by other offerings in the market. When you start out, it is incredibly difficult. This idea of assessing the value is really, really hard. I can tell you the tendency I see more often than not is leaving money on the table. People being too conservative about their price, worrying about it. And what you have to do is you really have to know the market and understand, if we think about the B2B space, eventually a sales guy is going to have to go out and talk to a customer, and he's going to have to give them some rationale. I do a lot of training, and a lot of these companies have these like video intercom things on the table. And I ask people, what is the economic value of this thing? Like, how do you sell the fact that you can show the room as opposed to just a conference call? I'm sure somebody went in there and made a pitch that, hey, this will make meetings more productive. If I can make your meetings 10% more productive, this is the outcome. I can reduce your travel budget by 15% because, or 20% or whatever it was. But it's really, really difficult. And I think you have to do a lot of experimentation with pricing. And, pricing is just misunderstood. Pricing should be, for example, segment specific. So there's a lot of theory around pricing. Very few people are going to enter into a market that just doesn't exist, where there's no reference point. So what you tend to do is look around the market and decide, hey, am I better than them? Can I charge a premium? Or am I going to, take the other route and compete by lowering the price? But you're right, Elon. It's like, it's part art, part science. It's very complicated. And, you could do, there are 3 and 4 day trainings just on pricing theory.
Thanks.
Now we are almost at the end of 1 hour. Really, thank you all contributors, and also audience. They are joining us with their comments. As last question, let me ask, if possible, to all, what is your next sessions or steps about product management webinars or workshops? As far as İlhan Bey, I want to ask also, as he is leading one semi-government or he is member of some governmental technology issues, what is your next step about product management?
Well, as I laid out earlier, and I think we need to finish in a minute or so. I think we need to have, first of all, the owners and managers, management of the companies to buy into product management. So we will have a series of trainings for the management, and then another set of trainings for product managers once the organization decides to turn into product culture. That's the plans I have for the rest of the year. I guess we are about to finalize. Yeah.
Yes. Lastly, Greg and Burak, what is your next step thinking about product management in Turkey and in globally as well?
Greg, please.
Yeah. So what is happening with product management? So I'm not sure if I understood the question. From what I understand of the Turkish market, I think there's a huge opportunity there. I think we tend to think about technical talent. What Turkey or any country needs to develop, become a product powerhouse, is more this kind of business perspective. There are a lot of people in the world that can develop great technology. Far fewer people who can build a sustainable business around that. So I'm excited about the opportunity. We'll be doing some more webinars, more about PM at the individual level. We are developing workshops, as Ilan said, for management, for product managers, for the rest of the team. So we are experts in making this transition, helping organizations become very effective at developing products. And I am really personally excited, to see what's going to happen in Turkey in the next 10 years. And I hope to be part of that. I hope to be, pushing the market in the direction. There is no reason that Turkey can't become a product powerhouse. I'm convinced of that, but it's going to take some hard work and some investment. But yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm bullish. I'm ready to go.
Most welcome, and thank you for this today event as well from our side. Yes, Burak. In fact, Greg answered the question as I tried to question about what is your next steps as webinars in Turkish market. Directly, you will go to do some semi NGOs, or directly some companies can apply you for some one-to-one private professional trainings or something this kind. If you are mentioned, please welcome. And at the end, lastly, your speech, and then thanks to everyone and the audience as well.
Thanks. First of all, you have already created awareness, increased awareness about product management. Thanks a lot for that, you and İlhan Bey. On our side, we try to make this more, how can I say, accessible for the software companies, for the tech community. So, as you mentioned, we start a webinar about product management, and thanks to Greg for these valuable sharings. We want to make this more and more, and hopefully with you and on the other channels, we try to increase the awareness and hands-on trainings, of course, how the company get this transition to being a service company to a product company. Thanks again for the chance and invitation and awareness about that topic.
So thank you for all audiences for this session as well, and thank you all commenters, from audience for this attention to us. Product management and product managers are very hidden but very important subject. I mean hidden because maybe a blink point for us and generally in IT sector. Let's see how next days İlhan Bey and Burak Bey about Greg have to leave, by the way. Say many salam to all you. But now already we are closing the session. See you next steps of product management and other our speakerinternational.com events. Welcome for next. Hope to see you again. See you.
See you. Bye. Thanks, Mustafa.
Most welcome. See you.